Welcome into a round one review edition of Inside the Huddle here on High School Cube News. Brian Chimino along with Beth Long of Fox Sports and Scout.com. As you can see, Mike Clark not with us. As you may or may not have known, there has been a sale between the Sun-Times and Tribune Group. And because of the sale, Mike Clark now working with the Tribune. But nothing will change here on High School Cube News and the Sun-Times. All the great coverage throughout the high school football season and in the basketball and spring. And we do wish Mike the best. And talking about playoffs round one, and right off the bat, the number 1 seed in Class 8A, the Stevenson Patriots, struggling against number 16 seed Lions. 6 minutes left in the game, Stevenson down. It's not Willie Bourbon, Beth. It's not Cam Green, a hero. It's Jack Joseph.
This was actually the game that I was at on Friday night, and of course it was blowing snow sideways, not the most conducive conditions for Willie Bourbon and that high-powered offense, especially his wide receivers. We didn't really see that much connection there at all on Friday night. That's something that's going to have to change as they move forward in the postseason, and I don't think we're going to see another game that close this week between the two of them. It is Loyola who they're going up against. Interestingly enough, when the game was over, one of their offensive linemen, defensive lineman, was talking after the game to me, and he said, we really underestimated this team. This team was a lot better than we thought they were. They had a really good quarterback. Tom Fiedler had a great night. He had a really good running back who's headed to Miami of Ohio, Leonard Ross, and offensive line. And Leonard Ross ran north-south on them all night long, something they cannot let happen throughout the rest of the season. They targeted Cameron Green one time. He's headed to Northwestern. He's a kid who can make a huge difference in a game. That's also going to have to change as they move forward in the postseason.
Co-champions of the Catholic League Blue, we're talking about Brother Rice up 21-7 at halftime over the defending Class 8A champions Naperville Central, but the Redhawks making big-time adjustments at halftime, outscoring the Crusaders in the second half 27-0 behind quarterback Connor Joyce.
It's interesting that you mentioned the adjustments, Brian, because it seems like Naperville Central's calling card through last postseason and this postseason has been their defense, and in my opinion, that's one of the places you can make the greatest adjustments and actually benefit after halftime. This game reminded me of Marist last year, one of those games that was a turning point for Naperville Central. This one was certainly one for them too. They just know how to play at the end of the season. They're a playoff team. Like you said, they're closers. I have to throw a mention too to Alex Alarcon, Brother Rice's quarterback, and Marcus Jones, headed to Northern Illinois, both players who had a fantastic season. And of course, game-changing moment in this one was Bobby McMillan. He's headed to Iowa State as a linebacker for Naperville Central, picked up a 33-yard fumble and ran it back for a touchdown, and that's when those big-time players make big-time plays and move on to the second round.
Looking down at a big one in Class 7A, last week, Wheaton Warrenville South in Week 9 had to win to get in. This week, they needed a miracle just to advance, and they indeed got it. With a minute and 20 seconds left, Lincoln Way North trying to run the clock out, but Wheaton Warrenville South forcing a fumble, end up kicking the game-tying field goal as time ran out in regulation, ended up winning 17-10 in overtime.
And that miracle came from Keyshawn Watson in overtime, catching a game-winning touchdown. He is our MVP this week on High School Cube News. He has had a fantastic season for Wheaton Warrenville South. Not the highest-rated recruit on that team, like we mentioned before. Tommy Vitale is headed to Northwestern to follow his brother Dan Vitale's footsteps. It's a solid team. Their record may not reflect how good they could be. They're in our top 25 rankings, and even though they're rated 6 and 4, they're playing really hot right now.
Talk about Naperville Central knowing how to win the playoffs. Naperville South knows how to win in the playoffs. Let's hear for the public league. 3 teams advancing on. You had Curie over Taft, Simeon as the favorite going into Class 8A. But let's give a round of applause to King. Coach Lonnie Williams, 47 years on the sidelines. He just got his second career playoff win in a 24-17 minor upset in Antioch.
The interesting thing is his first career playoff win was last year. Second career playoff win was this year. Certainly King is turning around and doing fantastic things. Also, too, his grandson, Lance Robinson, their senior running back, was a part of this, too, so I know that had to be a special moment for Coach Williams. Another Curie, first playoff win as well. Huge weekend for the CPS. And, of course, Simeon, not a surprise there. But we've got these 2 strong CPS teams in the 8A division, 8A classification. Simeon taking down Downers Grove South. That game has a ton of Division I prospects on the field, including Simeon's Kevin Agee. He's a huge offensive lineman who's only a junior. Downers Grove South has some pretty big prospects too. So Simeon's on a roll, and it wouldn't surprise me to see them keep moving forward.
Before we wrap up the review edition, let's check out some of the top performances of round 1. Pace Temple for Geneva in a 41-27 win over Hersey. wide receiver, but he did on the defensive side.
He actually had 2 interceptions, and we've been hearing a lot of buzz about Pace Temple. He's getting thrown to by Daniel Santa Catarina, who's headed to Northern Illinois, a very solid prospect. Geneva's in the top 25. They're kind of that quiet sleeper team that could make a pretty big push. But Pace Temple, he's explosive. He's a good prospect. He's getting a lot of looks on the college trail, and apparently he can play defense too. So he's just an all-around athlete.
And what about Matt Rafferty? We've mentioned his name from Hinsdale Central throughout the year. Not ready for basketball practice just yet. 4 touchdown passes in their round 1 win.
Matt Rafferty is an interesting kid. He's 6'7". He looks the part of a college quarterback. He's put on a little bit of weight since basketball season. He's unsure if he wants to play football in college. He's thinking about it, but he does have 4 or 5 Division I offers on the basketball side of things. He's a great athlete. He didn't play football last year. Got convinced to come back by Thomas Ives to play football this year. Now they're headed to the second round of the state playoffs with a brand new coaching staff. And certainly things are looking good for Hinsdale Central.
And that'll do it for this round 1 review edition of Inside the Huddle here on High School Cube News. Check back later in the week for Best MVP segment and also some big round 2 matchups coming up. And we'll talk about another edition of Inside the Huddle. For Beth Long, I'm Brian Chimino. We'll see you next time.